Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another episode of Endurance Chat. Welcome to Season 7. That's right, we are now in our 7th year of doing this, and by howdy, what a ride it has been. I'm Michael Zalavari, joining me for the first intimate hour of 2022, Austin Zetzman, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Austin.
Good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty swell. It has been a very interesting start to the new year, but it's also been a very news-packed start to the new year in the world of sports cars. How about you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the new year in motorsport, but yeah, a lot to look forward to in sports cars and to look forward to in the next couple of years. So I feel like we say that a lot, but this is right at the cusp of a lot of crazy new changes and new directions.
Yeah.
So a lot to look forward to.
I feel like after the last few seasons where we've been kind of looking for things to grasp onto to say things will get better, there's light at the end of the tunnel now. We can kind of see what's going to happen soon. And one of the things that has happened is the dropping of the Season 10, the WEC Season 10 entry list, which happened within the last 24 hours. I don't want to say like today or yesterday because it's different for everyone. But within the last 24 hours, we've had the Season 10 entry list, and we're going to go through that and give a bit of a preview for Season 10. But before that, we've got to say thank you to TheRacingLine.App, your motorsport calendar, for supporting us again for this year. And they've been very, very good to us with their sponsorship over the last 12 months. So it's great to have them on board again. Check out TheRacingLine.App on the iOS store and the Android store to set up your motorsport calendar for the year, because it's a big year. It's going to be packed with a lot of stuff, and it'll help you keep on top of the time zone changes and the event changes and the delay changes and all the changes, and yeah, make it super easy. And I've been using it. It helps me not mess up the time zones when I make up a race thread, and that makes me very, very happy.
Yeah, and then when somebody gets the time wrong, inevitably online at an online forum, you can immediately
actually
with the correct time using the app.
Yeah,
you know, then feel good about it. You know,
absolutely. They've been really, really good. So get on them to continue their support of us and continue supporting them. So thank you. Cookie, Season 10. Season 10. Can you believe that it's been 10 seasons of the WEC? It feels like it's gone past in a flash.
Yeah, we'll say that. I mean, I don't know. Like half of it has been a weird kind of still trying to feel out where it's at kind of thing, or in a weird limbo state. So I don't know. I would say the middle half went by really quick.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Fair enough.
The beginning and the end were definitely interesting. I mean, the beginning was really crazy just because they were like, well, we don't know what to do, so we'll just throw them all at Sebring and give them like 8 classes to race in. And
oh gosh,
you know, hopefully nobody kills themselves there. That was nuts. But
don't remind me, please.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is it's been 10 years. So look how far it has come.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we want to talk about that.
And like on that note as well, as we said, the entry list dropped yesterday within the last 24 hours. And 39 cars. That is the largest full season entry list that the WC has had. That's huge, and it's been bolstered by huge numbers in the Am classes. So 15 cars in LMP2, 15 cars in LMP2, and 13 cars in GTE-Am. Looking at the distribution of cars, we'll go through in a bit more detail into each of the classes in a moment. But distribution of cars, just first thoughts, what are you most excited to see?
LMP2.
LMP2? Why is that?
Yeah. The amount of entries in there. It's a single make series, essentially, and a lot of different storylines and expectations. Just like there's really, for LMP2, there's the podium 1, 2, 3, and that's it. And I think that there's quite a bit of teams, like I would almost say half of the teams are expecting that they would probably either win or make podium in a lot of these races. And so I just feel like it's probably going to be one of the most competitive prototype fields that I know of outside of like ELMS and that kind of stuff, just from the future LMH entries and factory efforts that basically have their racing teams preparing themselves for next year in 2024. So I mean, there's just this weird kind of convergence of those kind of entries, along with some really, really solid stalwart LMP2 entries. And I just think that It's going to be pretty nuts this year, like it isn't any other year. But I think this year is just going to have that much more because you just have that much more competition. So
Yeah, absolutely. We'll delve more explicitly into LMP2, but like just quickly, the quality of drivers almost it looks like, just as a look, almost half of the field has some sort of LMP1 or Formula
F2,
One,
F3,
yeah, or F2,
yeah,
F3,
F2, F3,
or IndyCar.
champion.
It's just
Yeah, it was yeah, crazy.
It's so nice. We'll go from the top. We'll leave LMP2 for a little bit. We'll go from the top. Le Mans Hypercar, the 6-car field has been sort of revealed. So we've got all the entries from last year, except for Glickenhaus, which has been cut down to one full-time entry. But Peugeot have made the list. Peugeot are on the full season entry list. So the big storylines, that is of course the biggest storyline. They've only got 2 of their drivers listed in each of the cars. Peugeot are back. The Lions are back, Cookie.
Yeah, I would also. I mean, it would just seem odd to me that they would make the entry list and not make Le Mans at this point.
Yeah,
I mean, stranger things could happen. There could be some delay that hits, but to see them on the entry list like this, on the season entry list, I think that's telling. I would say because they're on this list, I would be hard pressed to not believe until I see something otherwise that they're going to be at Le Mans. Like they're not going to be at Le Mans. They should be at Le Mans this year. So that's at least what that's telling me. Because like I could see where there can be a little bit of issues with the whole ByKolles thing, but I think I don't know. That's definitely something to talk about between the differences between those two and probably why one didn't get it and obviously the other did, but. That doesn't have to do with them being French, but
maybe just a little.
Maybe a little bit, but no, I mean, like this is the start of things to come. I mean, I don't know what next year is going to be like with Ferrari and with some of the other LMDH teams. Like, are we going to see some of this stuff getting, coming online mid-season or, because we really haven't heard anything too much about Ferrari's entry next year. Like if that, what their plan of action is for this year so are they going to be ready for Sebring next year? So, this to me, I guess, if you were wanting a response for Peugeot entering, would at this point would be like, this is definitely going to be things to come. Like we're just going to keep seeing this stuff every year.
I hope
so, which is going to be great.
I agree with you. The indication is that if they're on the full season entry list, they will at least make Le Mans, and it would be a pretty massive faux pas for them to not make Le Mans. They're running with numbers 93 and 94. What do you reckon about that?
I didn't even think about it, but I mean,
because 93 and 94 to me is
weird.
Like that's like the Porsche extra numbers for GTE-Pro at Le Mans.
Well, they won in 92 and 93, right?
I mean, that would make sense. That was their last 2 wins at Le Mans.
Yeah,
but of course,
so
the 92
I don't know why they did 93, 94.
Well, because the 92 was, of course, the other Porsche.
Was that the other Porsche? I thought 92. I thought 92 was the Peugeot.
No, sorry. So, in the WC entry list, 91 and 92 are the Porsche GT team. So, they can't get 92 and 93. Yeah.
Okay. I got you. Sorry. All right. Now I'm understanding what you're saying. I was like, what is it? Like, I don't know what you're trying to get with that.
Yeah.
I guess. I'm not sure. Like, I guess until they explain themselves, I guess that's what they're going for. Unless, they're doing the whole, 9x8 thing, and this is their version of doing that.
If it's 9x8, what's 9 times 8? It's 72. Why aren't they number 72? Come on.
that would actually be kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
That would be actually pretty hilarious if they did that. Or or did some number with that, or do 1 and or 17 and 72, 9 plus, just turn it slightly and it's a plus. So it's 70, 17 and 72. You're like, this is a math equation. It's like, yeah, thanks, Peugeot. Appreciate it, Mr.
Brilliant.
Lion. I have no idea why they're doing 93, 94, but I would be interested to know what I'm sure there's some corporate 5-minute speech about why they're 93, 94, but I don't know.
List of drivers in those cars at the moment: Paul di Resta, Loic Duval. We know that Kevin Magnussen will be in one of those cars. Mikkel Jensen will be in one of those cars. I'm trying to remember the other names, so I'm going just straight off of memory here. Gustavo
They'll also be able to
Menezes,
bring a
John
rear
Eric.
wing in those cars.
Well, we don't know. We don't know yet whether they're going to be a rear wing. We've seen pictures of their shakedown, but they were very explicit to block out the rear of that car. So who knows what that car is going to look like? But we do know at least it's on the full season entry for the year. Other stories in LMH: Alpine continuing with the A480, the LMP1 car, so that's still a thing that's happening, I guess. Glickenhaus down to one car. Do you think that's a good plan for Glickenhaus?
I'm sure they'll get the nod to have two at Le Mans. So this is just honoring the WC wanting them to run the full season or whatever pushback pressure there was from him not wanting to or committing to it at the end of last year. So, So I don't know. I mean, this is and this is where it's like I think if there were more privateer entries like this wouldn't be as much of a even discussion kind of thing, because ultimately like it's a privateer effort. Like, it's not like I was expecting much from Glickenhaus in terms of like overall competitiveness and all that, and it has been very nice to see all kinds of new stuff and like the process of how they like set the like just the behind the scenes stuff for that has been really awesome to see for just from a sports car standpoint. But it's he's not like a Elon Musk or something in terms of like SpaceX reinventing the how to get to space, something like that. Like they're not doing this to basically best Toyota at their own game with less funds. Like he's not like in this to win it. A lot of this is just this is a pride piece, and it's also just like it is a competitive way and to try to win, but it's like he's doing a lot of this from a political standpoint and like kind of and doing a lot of him and hawing instead of just like constant work with it. So I don't know. My expectations for the program, I think, were hopeful, but at this point, it's just like as long as he keeps showing up there and they keep logging laps, like the car is going to get better, and maybe they'll sell the car or like a team will pick it up and it'll start to produce some actual results. But I mean, until then, I'm very thankful that they're here. So and
considering how close the LMP2 field is to the LMH field, if they can consistently finish above the LMP2 field, like that's a win. That's a significant win. That's close. I mean, that's closest than some overall battles we would have had in seasons past.
Yeah, and I think that's really where I'm looking for them to just from like a moral victory or a small victory for this year. Because I mean it's clear that they just, I mean, even if there was somehow monetary, there wasn't this gap monetary wise from the spending, like just the amount of effort that Jim's willing to put to try to try to win a race or like to try to like really compete in this championship is just not as good as you need it to be in order to actually compete against Toyota and Peugeot and out. Yeah. So, like even against, I feel like a Pescarolo, like he wouldn't be able to beat a Pescarolo. Like Pescarolo would wipe him off the floor. I mean,
that's
just, but I mean, but I think Pescarolo is severely underwritten just because they had to go against Audi. Like, the guy knew how to set cars up. He just, at the end of it, they just had terrible cars. Like, those cars were as bad as ByKolles or worse. Like, they just never worked well. But, like, in that sweet spot,
they were good,
They were good, yeah. So, I don't know. Like I said, if there were more privateer entries, I think he would be at the kind of the bottom of the list of that. But it would just be like this is what privateer entries look like. This is how they operate. And right now it's just glaring because he's the only one doing this. And everybody's like, why are you not the
beating
best?
Toyota?
Like, why are you not right? Why are you not spending 18 hours a day constantly trying to work on this car? Because you see him going off and doing a bunch of other stuff. And I think, so this is a weird tangent, I guess.
I mean, we expect this.
Yeah, but I just I don't know. I feel like that's fine, and as long as he can, as long as there's blood flowing in that program, up until Le Mans this year, and just to keep it going, I think that will do them well, and probably will do the championship well too at some point. But
nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would have actually thought that they were going to be on the entry list this year.
That's surprising. I was always expecting them to be there. I was pretty sure that it was going to be one car. So to hear that you were umming and ahhing about whether or not they'd be there at all is a bit of a surprise. You don't homologate a car for 5 years and run it in 3 races. Is my thought.
It's sports car. It's
That's
sports car
true.
racing. People can do absolutely insane things and somehow like not lose a job or anything, or I don't know. They're like everything can be explained away as
it's sports car
like,
racing,
not bad. Yeah. Like,
speaking of other privateers, the elephant, or rather barbecue in the room, is ByKolles. There were articles floating around that they had applied for a full season entry and that they had paid the entry fee. However, they have not made it onto the full season entry list. Now, very briefly, what are your thoughts?
I do believe this is we're in the time where it's not required to go to Le Mans or be on the full season entry list for WC to have you would get an automatic invite to Le Mans, but you don't necessarily have to be running the full season anymore. I know that was a requirement, but I think that's now gone, right?
Yeah, for LMP1 cars, you had to run the full season in order to be given a Le Mans slot, effectively. Okay.
Yeah.
So you
I think for me, I'm gonna wait until the Le Mans entry list comes out in March.
Okay.
Or whenever that is. So because ultimately Peugeot clearly has a rolling chassis. They're already doing testing on it.
They've already done.
Sure, they need to get it homologated. Yeah, they're doing shakedowns on it. Who knows? They're there could have been even more miles on it that we don't know of. So, and that car, there's actual substance to it. So, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like whereas we're still a little bit unknown with ByKolles, and I don't know. I mean, there's got to be a reason why they got rejected, and it's just something maybe that it didn't fit right or whatnot. I also don't know what the logistics are in terms of, because clearly this is more entries than we've had before. So does this mean there's an extra plane involved? And so 39 is a cap because of the amount of freight that they can haul, or is there
or the amount of garages?
41? Yeah, or is it bound by garages, or is it strictly bound by freight, or how they transport these things? So there's only now they added an extra plane, so they've added 4 extra slots or something. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I wonder.
I don't know the logistics with that, but it is weird that Peugeot got it and they didn't. So.
Well, I'm not so sure that it is weird. Now, and as much as I love ByKolles for the memes, I haven't really ever been a big fan of the organization, how the team and driver and car package is put together. They've not ever really finished a race without having problems, and after 4 or 5 seasons of competing, you kind of, there hasn't ever been an indication that they have a reason to exist beyond, lol, it's a meme, look, it's on fire. And I think because of that, because of the fact that there isn't a chassis, because of the fact there isn't a wind tunnel test that's been done, and that's base camp in order to get a car competitive and get it homologated, is do wind tunnel testing, have a model, have something, give us something. And beyond a render, ByKolles hasn't given us anything. So
except for what's his face, the driver that they have signed that showed us a picture of him in the cockpit and then a wheel, but that's been it. So
yeah, exactly. So that's the sort of thing. They do not inspire confidence. And as much as it's low ByKolles sort of thing, I would rather they not be on the entry list if they're going to be in the garage the whole time.
Well, we also don't even know the process for the application.
Yeah.
So they could have paid their fee, put the application in, but if they don't, if they can't submit 4 pages of paperwork because they don't have the car to physically be able to fill that paperwork out, then not to say that it got rejected that way, but it's just kind of you have to pass that bar of expectation or of where the committee's at for this. And if that application is basically we don't have, the specs are not locked in and we don't really have, they're in between this and this, Peugeot's not homologated, yes, but they have a chassis.
They have a chassis that is done in shakedowns. They have a car. They have a car.
And that's not homologated, but they can also give specifications, and they can basically be like, hey, look, this is what we're giving you. It's not homologated yet, but we're not expecting at all for it to be any different, in terms of 2 to 3 inches this way, or centimeters this way, or whatever.
On that note as well, Toyota's car wasn't homologated until the prologue last year, and they got 2 entries, and that was exactly fine because they had proven that they had a car, that it was going to be there, and that all the ducks were in a row. They were just dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and I don't get that same confidence from ByKolles.
No.
Yeah.
No, and that's the thing too, is again, this is for a full season WC entry. So if there's the caveat that they really want to go to Le Mans and this is the only way for them to get to Le Mans, then yeah, this is soul crushing for their aspirations to do it for this year. But ByKolles has somehow stuck around for essentially a decade, as that we've been talking about.
Even longer. They were running Audi R8 LMSs in 2007 and 6. Which is wild.
So I mean, if somehow Glickenhaus didn't get a nod for the full season entry, then I'd be like, oh, this is that's death knell kind of stuff. But for this is all right, fine. And maybe the ACL were like, okay, well, now you got a car, and you're okay. You'll have it homologated by Spa. You won't be able to get it entered there. But honestly, I don't see them being allowed into Le Mans. And it would probably then be off of dispensation to start racing after Le Mans and do a couple rounds to get yourself involved. Because it just, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like that, they're actually they're doing it on their own time. But that's the problem here, is that they have to meet certain deadlines in order for them to be able to do stuff in this calendar year. And it's clear they didn't hit that goal yet, which is, look, that stuff happens. We've both sat in these chairs and talked to death about how we got to hope that this new program gets enough testing in and R&D done in time before they get it for the first round, because they this stuff happens. So I don't know. It appears to be much of a bigger deal than I think both of us think it is, but I don't know. I just it is odd that there's not necessarily an explanation between both of them being like that, but it's very understandable as to why ByKolles probably did not get the invite.
Yeah,
because it's ByKolles.
And the reaction in the threads around the entry list actually honestly surprised me. I was surprised that there was that much outcry. I guess
it's a fan favorite.
I mean,
it's a fan favorite, man.
But why?
It's a car that's always Look, it's just it's like the pluckable loser, man. I mean, if a car is constantly going to be on fire or always breaking down, having problems, never doing anything right.
Oh, so it's the Mazda DPI. Okay, I get it. Yeah, cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Brilliant.
I mean, look, that had a huge... Are you kidding me? Everybody that wasn't a Mazda DPI hater was a huge fan of them winning Petite.
Sorry, there's Johan in the live chat has just responded, oh, come on. Brilliant. And okay, that absolutely, that's an unfair comparison because that program did end up yielding results, but that's the thing, ByKolles just hasn't. I want to move on quickly because we still have a lot to get through, and we're already 20 minutes into this podcast, and we've already we talked so much about 6 cars. We got so many more cars to go. LMP2, there is huge quality in this field. 15 cars, all of them Orica 07s, which is at this stage of the development cycle unsurprising. We have so many returning teams, Rickard Mille Racing is back, 2 cars from United Autosport, G-Drive returned to the WEC for the first time in 5 seasons, Jotosport back with 2 cars, WRT are back with 2 cars, one is the 31 that they ran last year, they're also running the Real Team car from last year, which was run by TDS, so they're running that car now. ARC Bratislava's back, Into Europol is back. There's new entries from Team Penske, from Prema, from Vector Sport, and from Ultimate, a team that's run a lot of LMP3 machinery in the past. AF Corsa jump in with the number 83, facilitating Francois Perotto, who was last year's GTE-Am champion. There is so much going on in this class, Cookie. Where do you want to start?
We can do the newcomers.
Let's do the newcomers, and I am entirely unsurprised that you've said that because the first one on the list is Team Penske. Hot damn!
Not surprising, considering their aspirations to do WC, but and that they've done this before. But yeah, it's finally a year where we're starting to see the kind of beginnings of the Porsche program coming together for LMDH.
Absolutely. So Penske, of course, are running the LMDH program in both for Porsche in both the WC and in IMSA competition. So this is basically their dress rehearsal season. They've got Dane Cameron, Emmanuel Collard, and Felipe Nasser. So Collard was the... where's Collard been recently? He used to drive with Francois Perotto, but he's stepped away from that for a little while. He's got a...
He was a former Porsche. I mean, he drove the Spider.
Yeah,
back in the day with Penske,
and like even prior to that, didn't he used to drive like a factory Porsche in a like for a while? But
yeah,
he's
big time factory Porsche driver for a while.
So
but then went LMP2 driving.
So he's got a lot of clout behind him. Then you pair it up with Felipe Nasser, former F1 driver Felipe Nasser, and Dane Cameron, who's been tearing things up in the States with Penske, of course, for a first attempt at LMP2 proper. That's a friggin' scary driver lineup.
Yeah. Yeah, that one is going to be intense. I feel like that's going to be just a lot of this entry, like a 15 car entry for LMP2 is pretty high, and then just to look at all these entries, it's just kind of nuts.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Just to round off on Collard, he has 2 class wins at Le Mans, and has been competing at Le Mans as far back as 1995. So he's just turned 50, which means that he is a confirmed silver driver, regardless of his experience, and that is just a ridiculous amount of experience. So that's Team Penske. You then have 2 of the other newcomers competing in the overall LMP2 class. Prema Orlan team, which is being run, I believe, by Iron Lynx. So that's the actual crew. And they've got Robert Kubica, Louis Daly-Traz, and Lorenzo Colombo, which is a name I'm not familiar with. And then just after that, you've got Vector Sport, which is a British-based team with Nico Mueller, Ryan Cullen as the silver driver, and Sebastian Bourdais. Just in those 2 cars, you have 2 former Formula 1 drivers, a former LMP1 driver in Daly-Traz, because I think he was did a few races with Ginetta, and Nico Mueller is a pro platinum rated driver. I believe he has raced Porsches at some point.
I think so, yes.
Contracted to Audi LMDH. So,
and just to build off your point too, I mean, not to mention drivers, but we also technically, I know the number 9 is serviced by another, but Prema is a Formula racing team, Formula 2 team as well. So. Yeah. You're seeing more infusion from different disciplines, I would almost say, of just the management too. It's just not just okay, well, let's see a driver doing double duty from a one-off standpoint, helping out a sports car team, for one event. But now we're seeing teams themselves branching into sports car racing as just an ownership group, or just having a team there now competing with the same name. So, and that to me that's what stood out to me too, just to see a lot of the racing team names, is that there's more names that are coming around in LMP2 that aren't just who are these people, or hardcore prototype sports car fans that know them only. You're oh, Prema, okay, you've kind of known them from other places as well. So I think that was something that stood out to me too, looking at the entry list.
Absolutely. And Colombo and Cullen, who are in those 2 cars. Cullen's actually got a fair bit of LMP2 experience. He's been racing with United Autosports in LMP2 a few seasons ago. He won a race. He won the Daytona 24 Hours in LMP2 with Dragon Speed. So he's got experience in that regard. Lorenzo Colombo is a Formula 3 driver as well. So again, not just I think that might even be a Prema. Well, I mean, clearly it's a Prema Formula 3 driver, but he's been pulled across with the team into sports cars, which is pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
No, he raced for Campos, Johan is saying. So in that similar sort of family, but not quite in that same team.
Yeah.
The other newcomer to the class is Ultimate, which is running in the Pro-Am category. We'll talk a bit more about the Pro-Am category at the end of the podcast, or at the end of this section. Ultimate have been running a lot of lower class efforts, so things like LMP3 in the European Le Mans Series. I think they just stepped up to LMP2 in the ELMS not too long ago, and this is pretty much their normal driver lineup in that respect. They've got Jean-Baptiste Lahaye and Matteo Lahaye, who are the two drivers for Ultimate in those competitions, and then Francois Hero as the bronze, which puts them in the Pro-Am category. A Triple Am lineup. What are your expectations for them?
Stay out of everybody else's way. No, I mean, the LaHayes are, it's not like they're completely unknown. And yeah, it's definitely a very Am-sided affair. I would say, at least with that, with at least the Pro-Am lineups, I'm saying it's very much an Am affair.
Well,
should be interesting too.
It is the only car on the entry list that is fully amateur in terms of the LMP2
field.
No
golds or platinums. Yeah,
exactly. So I'm just trying to have a quick look. They raced with this driver lineup in LMP2 in the European Le Mans Series last year for most of the rounds, and they ended up finishing down in 12th. With a best result of 5th, which they took twice in the early part of the championship. So I wonder if this is them trying to confirm themselves a Le Mans invite, because something I want to touch on a bit later is that there's not going to be a lot of Le Mans invites going around.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. It's going to be tight for quite a few people, considering the amount of entries that are already granted for this. I don't think there's going to be any more additional garages built this year, or that'll be open this year, right?
So it'll be 62 once again. So that's going to be a very slim margin. The LaHayes have booked their spot to Le Mans, and they can't get shafted from that. So that's what they've done. So I mean, it's good to see another team trying to make that jump into the WEC, especially a team as sort of small, like that has worked their way through the ACO ladder. So hopefully they do well.
Yes. Yeah, definitely pulling for him. Especially anything like in that Am setting is that it's in that class too. Like you're just like you're really fast, but then at the same time, like all this is brand new and this is a lot to take in. So, and for just how pro like this season is probably going to be in terms of the field strength. That's going to be tall. I would not want to start my first season in WC this year if I was Am. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a baptism of fire in that respect. Shall we talk about the other two Pro-Am cars in the 3-car Pro-Am class?
Sure.
The other two cars are the returning ARC Bratislava car, so that is Miroslav Konopka, and now this time he's with Matthias Besch, who's a gold-rated driver that we've seen in Rebellion in the past and a few other things, and a Dutch driver by the name of, we're going to get this wrong, so to all the Dutch fans listening in the audience, I formally apologize. Tijmen van der Helm, I believe is how you say that. So this is a silver-rated driver. I've not come across this driver before, but he is also racing with a team at the 24 Hours of Daytona coming up. So we'll see how he goes there. ARC Bratislava, they've moved on from the Ligier into the Orica. Apparently they didn't know that they were going to be on the entry list until it formally got announced. What are your thoughts on having them back for another season?
Good. I mean, it's just good to have, some variety just from a nationality standpoint. So just to see them be there. I mean, there's not too many of race teams coming from that area.
Yeah, not too many race teams from Slovakia.
Yeah. So it's great to see them on the lineup just in any way. And this is it's a solid. I think it's a solid continuation of what they were starting from last year, especially for how rocky that was when they, because they were trying with the Ligier. So
Yeah, and they were really struggling.
Vanderhelm's F3, I think, stalwart, and I believe so. Yeah, it should. I wouldn't be surprised if they like have some really good performances in the Pro-Am category. I mean, maybe they play the cards right, they might have a decent show for P2, but I don't know. It just seems like most of the Pro-Am entries this year are just going to be fighting amongst themselves for the most part.
Well,
this is a solid lineup to take.
That's the thing. There's 3 cars in the Pro-Am category. You've got the Ultimate Car, which is a trio of amateurs, so 2 silver drivers and a bronze. You've got ARC Bratislava, which is Konopka as the bronze, a gold driver and a silver driver. And then you have AF Corsa, which is the port of the championship-winning GTE-Am car, which has Francois Perotto, Nicholas Nielsen, and Alessio Rivera. So this is the same driver lineup as I had in GTE-Am last year. The reason that they are not in GTE-Am is because Alessio Rivera, who was a silver-rated driver that legitimately broke the entire system last season, has now been upgraded to gold. So that means that they can't be in GTE-Am with that driver lineup. So Francois Perotto has decided to take it to LMP2. And you've got to say, out of the 3 Pro-Am driver lineups, that is easily the strongest.
Oh, for sure. By far and away, it's the strongest. I mean, yeah, just looking at the driver lineups themselves, even if you just look at the driver ratings, you'd be like, okay, well, that's probably good. But no, they have very, very good drivers. All 3 of them are solid. And yeah, that does not surprise me. It would not surprise me if they easily take Pro-Am, and then also do maybe potentially decently well overall in the fight with the other ones. Yeah.
Well, as much as I'd love to see that, as much as it would absolutely tickle me. The problem is the overall category for LMP2 is ridiculous. Not just the teams that we've gone through that are jumping in, like Team Penske, like Prema, like Vector, who are like bringing in former F1 talent. You have the return of United Autosports with 2 cars, Phil Hansen, Felipe Albuquerque, Will Owen as one of their driver lineups. And then on the other hand, you've got Alex Lynn, Oliver Jarvis, and Joshua Pearson. I want to put a pin in Pearson and come back to that because that is a really interesting story. G driver returning. You've got James Allen, Rene Binder, and I'm probably guessing that's going to be I've forgotten his name entirely. The angry Russian guy. Roman Rusinov.
Yeah.
Possibly Rusinov, or it could be someone like a Job van Uitert, who we haven't seen on the entry list yet. Joda Sport have returned with the Mighty 38, Gonzalez da Costa and Will Stevens replacing Alex Davidson after his retirement. And that's basically a like-for-like switch. LMP2 experience, Formula 1 experience is going to give you an amazing amount of flexibility with how you set up your strategy. Their second car is super interesting, though. Oliver Rasmussen is the silver, Edward Jones, gold-rated, and then Jonathan Aberdeen as a gold-rated driver as well, who I believe was in the United camp prior. And then that's not even the half of it. You've got WRT returning. Sean Galeo's the silver in that driver now, and we haven't seen the other 2 drivers for that project yet. Into Europol are back. Schmeikowski is the bronze, is the silver rather, and you've got Alex Brundle and Esteban Gutierrez, who's a former F1 driver. It's just, you look through this field, and it's just star power everywhere you look.
Yeah, it is. And then you have 41 too. We'll find out. That one will probably be more an Am entry, but you're almost kind of waiting for another shoe to drop, with just, if there's still some blank areas on here that could be filled out with drivers. You just half expecting to see some other Formula One name come up there, or something from IndyCar or something like that. So
if you look
it's a lot.
Absolutely. If you look at the drivers that were the stalwarts of last season that don't have drives, like where is Job van Uitert? Where is Charles Malesi? Where is Andrea Pizzatola? Where are these guys?
ELMS.
I mean, certainly, but you would expect to see them in the overall, or the big show, the WEC as well.
Yeah. Unless that there's these, and there can be these weird underlying deals that are going on even from factories and entries too, for like, okay, well, we're gonna potentially look at this driver and we're to drive for us, but we need him to be driving an LMP2 and do this other stuff. So some of these signings could just literally be because these drivers need to get seat time in LMP2 or in some prototype before running in LMDH or LMH next year. So, like I say that because we still don't really have a clear picture of these driver lineups for Ferrari or for Audi and Porsche. Like, they're not all filled out yet for who's driving what. So, like, a lot of this could be jockeying too behind the scenes that we're just seeing it on paper. That could be just setting them up so that they actually get some more drive time experience for next year. So, yeah, this is extraordinary for the driver lineups for these guys.
Absolutely. You just look at the amount of like former F1 talent is just that's in this field, and the young up and coming guys who have jumped over from the Formula One feeder series into WEC. It's just remarkable. Like, whereabouts is Franco Colapinto? Is he going to land a drive? I hope so, because he was incredible last year. And Robin Freins, Nick de Vries, where are these guys going to end up? Are they going to end up in the WEC? It's all a weird jigsaw puzzle that we're trying to work out. And there's a few slots still open. So 2 seats at Richard Mille Racing. One of them has been filled by Lilou Wadeau, who's a driver, a female driver I've not heard of before. But she seemed to drum up a fair bit of interest when the name got dropped yesterday. Well, on the entry list. Have you heard of her before?
No, did not ring a bell for me either. But yeah, and I did see some mentions of her, but it kind of did not surprise me at all either. Just from that entry has been trying to find, and usually trying to give opportunities for women drivers. So just the fact that there was another one that was going to be in that car didn't really surprise me. But yeah, I don't know a ton about her. I don't think she could be in the W Series at all last year, did she?
I'm not sure. Driver DB doesn't have her competing in the W Series. She was driving, according to Driver DB, she was driving in the Alpine Elf Europa Cup, which is an interesting transition.
Yeah, she finished third in that, I guess, and yeah,
but
it's bad. Yeah, go ahead.
And the Porsche Sprint Challenge as well. She actually won that race at Le Mans. So there you go. So she does come from something.
That entry is backed by the the FIA Women's in Motorsport Initiative or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, women entries in that are not surprising to me. It's more like what's their background, or if you haven't heard of them, like not like a Jamie Chadwick or something like that. Like what's their repertoire? So I would expect to probably see more household names than that on the other 2 entries for that, but I probably would also expect them to be girls, if they can't get filled out with boys.
Well, the rumor that I've been seeing has been that it will be Bates Gavissa and Charles Malesi. So Malesi will step over from the WRT car to pilot that machine.
Oh,
yeah. So we'll see how that shakes out. The other interesting thing for me is 2 drivers to fill in at WRT. Well, actually 4 drivers to fill in at WRT. So Galil has made the jump, and that kind of leaves the rest of the driver lineups in a bit of flux, because last year WRT were the ELMS and WC champions. They had an impressive battery of drivers across both cars. You had Robin Freins, Ferdinand Hatzberg, and Yefei and Louis Delatraz, Robert Kubica. So Delatraz and Kubica have moved on to another team, but there's still seats there to be taken. As impressive as WRT have been, do you think that they can attract the drivers to make them a world beater once again? Surely yes.
I mean, it's WRT, so they're most likely going to be doing this off the basis that they're going to be, taking delivery of Audis next year.
That's true.
So I would expect to see, some drivers from their eventual pro lineup with LMDHs that are going to be coming. So that would be what my thought process would be. But hey, I mean, they could pull something crazy out where they're just driving, they're just showing everybody like, oh no, we're just a weird basic LMP2 team, guys, don't worry about us. And then I don't know, like I would expect there to be way more talent to be announced for these two entries for sure, because it's WRT, they're not
They're not.
I don't
They're not
think they would
messing
want
around.
to waste this. Yeah, they wouldn't want to waste this. Just be like, okay, well, we'll take some paid drivers this year and do whatever. Like there's a reason why they're here. So that's
Okay.
my thought with that.
On that note, then, 15 cars in this field. Give us your top three. I'm putting you on the spot because there's not a lot of drivers. Oh, there's still some drivers left to come. But give us your top three.
I mean, the 38 is hard to say no to.
That's true.
So I'll probably say 38's in there. Man, I'll probably go with the 22.
United Autosports, Hanson,
Yeah.
Albuquerque, Will Owen.
Yeah, and then probably Penske, maybe.
Dan Cameron, Matthew Collard, and Felipe Nasser.
It's from what I can see now. I mean,
I want to say
from
WRT.
That standpoint, the number 31 probably. If Galeo's in there as a silver, like they're gonna put two pros in there, so that probably is gonna be just insane.
Yeah,
but for how difficult it's been to actually repeat as champions in LMP2 and WC, I mean, like, I guess it can happen anytime, and that is more of a statistic, but that also does not bode well at all for that number. So
yeah, absolutely. Just before we finish up on LMP2, I did say that I wanted to go back and mention Joshua Pearson. So he is the new silver driver for United Autosports. He's jumping in the 23 car alongside Alex Lynn and Oliver Jarvis, which are two big names in prototypes. He is 15 years old. Cookie, what were you doing as a 15-year-old?
I was doing lots of stupid shit.
Yep.
Not doing that. Watching this, watching that on the TV. That's what I was doing. I was watching lots of sports car racing. No, but no, that's crazy. Wasn't Phil Hansen pretty young too, 17 or something like that, or 16 when he was in there?
I think he started as a 16-year-old. There was a trend for a little while where Phil Hansen and Julian Andlau were the equal youngest driver in the field because they were born on the same day. But yeah, it's remarkable that they can find these guys. Apparently he's done Road to Indy, and he's just been plucked from the absolute nether and just been dropped into a possible championship winning organization. Like, that's a huge mark of intent for United, saying that we expect this guy to be able to win us championship.
Well, I mean, this might just be because I also look at it this way from United Autosports also just being affiliated loosely with McLaren, and now their IndyCar team too. So, a lot, just even you saying that he came from Road to Indy, there's a lot of that just of, well, we want, if he is in the next 4 to 5 years going to be driving Indy cars for McLaren Aero, for him to have a progression of just different experience doing different stuff and to constantly keep doing other things. So if he was wiping the floor a little bit, maybe last year, doing well in Road to Indy, this would be an understandable upgrade for him to start doing this stuff and preoccupy him for a few years doing this, especially when, essentially the IndyCar team has a total leg in to the driver lineups for, almost every single sports car championship in a calendar season with United Autosports. So you
got a lot of options.
I think that's where we're seeing that wrinkle coming in too, where that we can also see this being a proving ground for potential IndyCar hopefuls for like some of these other teams that are just in the other side of the garage of these sports car teams. So that's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And
interesting to note.
The United ladder has already produced a great driver in Phil Hansen. It's already given opportunities to likes of Job van Uitert and those sort of guys. So big shoes to fill, but But surely with Alex Lynn and Oliver Jarvis as your mentors, as your guys that you're learning from, he's going to get up to speed really, really quickly. So that's LMP2. Let's jump over to the GT side of things. GTE-Pro to start with. We actually have an increase in car numbers for GTE-Pro. We've got the same 4 as last year, plus a Corvette for the full season. Cookie, the Corvettes, full season.
Yay. Yay.
America.
Yay. Yay.
The C8 has driven in the WC before. It did a wild card at Spa-Francorchamps, if I recall correctly, last season. But they committed to a full season here. Tommy Milner and Nick Tandy as the drivers. Do you reckon Tandy's going to be as kind to the Porsche team? Or is he going to find that weird after winning Le Mans with Porsche?
He's going to find any interaction that exists with Porsches that don't involve the core Autosport boys to be pleasurable, so or pleasant. I don't know. I mean, like, I am not even remotely saying that there's poor driving standards with Porsche drivers, but the amount of crazy stuff that those Porsches in North America get into in GTLM, it's just.
Remember when Tandy was the linchpin of that? Was the whole, like, Porsche drivers in GTLM are trash, and then, like, here's Tandy dumping people off the road?
Yeah, that's true. But then they were, but then a lot of that was happening this year, like, and just, like, I swear to God, those Porsches just always seem to have weird, like, in the US and GTLM, it was Porsche versus Corvette. Those Porsches always would seem to find their way into, like, touching the Corvettes all the time. So I don't know. There's just
no touchy.
Those Porsches really just are, they really take Imps's driving standards to a different level. But I don't know. I mean, it's Nick Tandy, so I'm sure it'll be solid. And if there's anything on track, it'll just be a battle, and he'll just be driving away because it's Nick Tandy. So.
Absolutely. Real talk about the Corvettes though. What do you reckon? Where do you reckon they're going to slot in with the BOP in the class? Because an automated BOP system, we've seen with new cars that it takes a while to dial in. Are they going to be properly dialed in by the end of this season, or is this just a bit of a waste of time?
That's a waste of time, but what else are they going to do?
Yeah, good point. Two drivers still to fill in at Ferrari. They've got Alessandro Pierguidi in the number 51 and Miguel Molina in the 52. Last year, those cars had James Collado and Daniel Serra in each of those machines. Who fills the blanks?
The Ferrari LMH drivers.
Ooh,
there you go.
Really? That's interesting.
I mean, we're a year away. I feel like whoever they're putting in this is gonna have a pretty good. I don't know. I like. There's a chance that they might not be, but I mean, it would be shocking to me if the extra gaps in this lineup right now aren't filled with potential future Ferrari LMH drivers, because it's just like it's GTE-Pro. I mean, I guess they have Corsa with their LMP2 entry, so they're getting a little bit of experience doing that LMP2 stuff. But I don't know. There's an aspect of team synergy and cohesiveness and whatnot. So you kind of do want to get your drivers working together already. So yeah, I mean, maybe saying every single one is a little bit hyperbole in terms of that they're going to be LMH drivers, but I would not be surprised if a couple of those in the yet to be named Ferrari drivers turn out to be LMH drivers too for them. So,
not going to put your hat in with any actual names.
Not really.
I'd love to, like.
Not really.
You're such a perfect fence sitter. Did your butt ever get sore?
No, because I can talk my ass off of it. So.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. I'd love to see Combe Ledegar and Daniel Serra be in those cars. I'd love to see Ledegar get a Ferrari, like a full season Ferrari factory drive. That would be such a nice progression of his career so far.
Is he Australian?
No, he is French, but he did win the Blank Pain Endurance Championship in 2016 with one Shane Van Gisbergen, so I've been tracking his career ever since.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay. You seems very interested and motivated, so I thought there might be an Australian connection to this. So
I mean, there is a little bit, but like also he has had incredible one-lap pace. He took Hyperpole the first year that Hyperpole happened in the GTE-Am class. He's made strides into a full-fledged Ferrari seat. You don't just get invited to run in the 51 for Le Mans just because you're there. He's certainly put strides in to be there, and I'd love to see him get rewarded for that.
me too.
Only one other really notable change in the GTE-Pro lineups. Porsche continue with Bruni and Leitz in the number 91, but Kevin Estre is now partnered with GTE-Pro stalwart Michael Christensen instead of Neil Jani for this season. Well, any thoughts on that one?
Not really too much. I think it's a good shakeup. I mean, sometimes I mean, there's times that shakeups don't work, but I think for this I think it's a good mix up for him.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think Johnny is a better prototype driver than he is a GT driver, and had Estre been paired with Christensen last season, they probably would have won the championship.
Yeah. Neil just seems bored by GT driving at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
that's my take on it.
After Bahrain.
Yeah. I mean, that's just my assumption anyways, that when you're like, when you drive the 919, you kind of like want to keep driving the 919 or equivalent to that, and not necessarily want to drive GTs, and then with all the extra drama.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But that's my observation with no basis in any fact. So
we don't talk about the Bahrains down in Africa.
Yeah. God,
I'm not sorry. GTE-Am, 13 cars in GTE-Am, and quite honestly, a surprising amount of carryover from last year. There's only been 2 changes in the class from last season. So the AF Corsa number 83 has, of course, moved to LMP2, and that car has been backfilled by another AF Corsa car, number 21, Simon Mann, Christoph Ulrich, and Tony Vielander. I believe I've seen the names Christoph Ulrich and Simon Mann in the Am class of the SRO ladder before, so that's where my assumption of that comes from. The other change is that Settler Racing have decided to do the North American Championship over in IMSA, which makes me very, very sad because I love that blue Ferrari, but I'll see him in IMSA anyway. And they have been replaced with a Spirit of Race Ferrari, which at the moment has 2 drivers in it. Frank Deserteur. I believe I probably have butchered that entirely, but that's what it's spelt like. Who's Deserteur from France, who is a bronze-rated driver. And Pierre Rags, who we would be familiar from various LMP2 teams. I believe last season he drove with no, that's Lafargue. Who did Rags drive with last year? Can we find him?
Signatech. He was with the Alpine, the 470 in 2020.
Okay, yes.
I don't think he was in anything last year.
I don't believe you, but I've got my Le Mans spotter guide up on the wall in front of me, and I'm trying to find him. I'll be one moment. Surely he was in something. It turns out he wasn't in anything.
Look at that.
Wow.
This broken clock was right.
Twice a day. Which surprises me because Pierre Rags has been a notable half-decent silver driver, so I'm surprised that he wasn't.
He just took a break, man.
Yeah, exactly.
He just took a break.
So they're the 2 major changes. Pretty much everything else is the same. How are you liking the GTE-Am class?
Yeah, I mean, it was solid last year. 13 entries this year is a fantastic amount. And it's good to see a lot of GT field for the full season for WC filled up. And, I would have loved to see more GT pros, but, beggars can't be choosers. But glad to see the rest of them go to GTM entries, and just to still see the strength of the Am, GTE Am field in general. So just with all the not so great news, over the last couple of years surrounding the class, it's still good to see that the car quantity can be there and is there consistently.
Yeah, exactly. It's still 13 cars. It's 13 cars, which was the same as last season, and there's still quality within it. Just been given a note under the table, effectively, that Pierre Rags was doing a rally last year. He went in the Alpine and did the World Rally Championship, which is pretty dope. Cool looking car as well. I like that A110. It reminds me of the classic A110. The French Rally Championship, which is much less exciting. Not too many names on the entry list. So we can't really glean a lot of information, but it's all the same teams from last year. So Ben Keating's listed in the TF Sport Aston Martin, which I think is the second time he's run the same car in the same championship.
Yeah.
Thomas Floor with AF Corsa once again. Claudio Schiavone with Iron Lynx. Iron Dames have their own brand now, so they're actually entered as Iron Dames, which is pretty cool. Rahel Frey's been listed in that car as a gold-rated driver. That's pretty exciting.
I saw that too. Yeah.
Because both her and Michelle Gatting were silver-rated last season. And it was always very clear when Frey was in the car, because that car was a lot quicker when she was in it, when the other drivers were in it.
Yeah, and it would get a lot of people talking about it, especially too as it was holding its own, in the GTE-Am category as well. Just being able to compete as well against some gold drivers. So yeah, that was refreshing to see. But yeah, a lot of the same Satoshi's in the D station
and Wayne Wright's in GR
Cairoli and Team Project One.
Yep, Christian Reed back with Dempsey Proton, of
and
course.
The Dempsey Proton. Yeah, so.
In fact, the only team that has its full list of drivers besides the AF Corsa number 21 that we went through earlier is the Northwest AMR, the Paul Dall'Anna machine. He's driving with David Pittard and the return of Nicky Team. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, the BAM following will be pretty happy with that.
BAM!
That's for sure. BAM!
David Pittard, that's not a name that I'm familiar with. Have you seen anything like them? No, about them? About him, rather?
British GT? Or VLN, maybe?
Let's have a look.
I'll say I'm going to decide VLN. I'll say VLN. That's what I'm going to go with.
So we're on. Oh, you're absolutely bang on. He was the first in the 2020 VLN GT class, GT3 class. Oh. Wow.
Oh, okay.
Did you know that, or did you straight no scope it?
No, I straight up no scopes.
Yeah, so
well, because I went British GT, but I was like, well, I mean, I don't know, it could have been British GT, but no, I went, because it could be VLN.
You straight up no scoped it. That's pretty impressive. So yeah, he was driving with BMW back then.
Okay, so yeah, all right. I don't know. Maybe I was like paying attention or something during something. I have not watched a lot of VLN races, but this year I've been watching a decent amount. So I don't know. Maybe something just kind of stuck in there. So
it just osmosed into your memory.
This broken clock is too many times.
Yeah, that's weird. You're not normally right so many times in a single podcast.
Yeah, that's usually we usually have to rely on me being incorrect in order for actual information to be.
Isn't that the thing? Like, what's the fastest way to get the right information on the internet? Post the wrong information.
Exactly. Just say the wrong thing. Yeah. I just need to. I need to just say more people are taking breaks. Like man of the card, he's taking a break.
Oh, brilliant!
Jordan Taylor, he'll take a break.
Bill Overland, will he take a break?
Unless he yells at somebody, I don't think he's taking a break.
Brilliant. So that's 39 cars. 39 cars for the WEC this season. It's the largest entry list ever. Cookie, the run-on effect of this is that come Le Mans, you only have an additional 23 invites to be able to give out. And some of them will be like betrothed to like the ELMS champions for LMP2 and LMP3 and GTE and Asian Le Mans Series champions and IMSA entries. So if you're not in the WEC and winning these auto invites, how are you going to get an invite?
You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I mean. In my opinion, that's what the WC was designed for. It was designed to basically like create a more like consistent way or method of like these events being hosted without necessarily like having the last third or quarter of the grid filled with complete wild cards, like up until like a few weeks before the race. And I, to one degree, I absolutely miss that, and I wish that would come back, where we just had fly by night just entries of like, where the hell did they come from? And they're never going to do anything outside of like break down at 1 a.m. on Mulsanne, with a seized gearbox or something like that. But at least they like showed up there, and you're like, okay, that's cool, and that's just the spirit of Le Mans. But I think, I mean, in just an extremely hyper corporate world right now that we have, it is way more reassuring to people in investments and in projected plans for action for these kind of things to like have, actual specific plans in place and all this other stuff to actually get these entries rolling.
Yeah.
And so I think that this is just ultimately like, this is where I think everybody, the ACO and the FIA were wanting this to go is for it to be, well, there's really nothing we can do. Like, this is how this works. You essentially have to be in these championships or do this or do that. And then, that will let you in, instead of it being like this, oh, well, like, please let us in. Please, like, we've done submitted XYZ, and then for it all to be like this, like, nitpicking kind of after the fact of like, oh, well, they didn't enter these guys. They took these guys over these guys. Like, it just looks like this is where they're going, is from like a automated standpoint, where like these entries are not really done anymore of like a invite standpoint. It's more like you're invited based on the internal mechanisms of the championships we have set up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's turned the WC into the pinnacle of the ACO ladder. Here's a quick note, just quickly. There are 39 cars in the WEC field, so we're making the assumption that every single car on that entry list will be at Le Mans, and like, I think that's a fairly safe assumption. There are 15 automatic invites given out by the ACO already. So if you tally that together, you've got then 54 cars already confirmed. That's 8 slots left. 8.
Yeah.
So that's
one presumably going to Glickenhaus.
And then a Garage 56 if there's a Garage 56.
Garage 56, maybe a second Corvette if they want to do that. But then and that's where I'm saying is just like we're already now down to that where we're assuming the nods are going to go to these pro teams, which they probably are. If anything, they're going to try to do pro entries first. And then, leaving literally nothing, barely anything left, And like, you'd expect of those remaining slots, like, Panos would probably get one, SR20, like, Graf would probably get one, Duquesne might get one, because, they're based in France. And then, like, you start to grab at straws if you want to race at Le Mans and you're not in this, winning these championships. It's pretty damn cutthroat. It puts a precedent out that you basically have to be competing in these things in order to viably have a shot. And again, it's just this feels like it makes it a whole lot easier on the admin side of it, that you're not having to do all this cutthroat politicking and whatnot on the back end. Like, the politicking is done now out on the track and on the results, and whether or not you can just gain entry, 4 or 5 months before Le Mans at this point, and that's the standard now. And instead of it being like, okay, well, will we see them be homologated weeks before Le Mans and have a special dispensation for allowance that they are in? Like, there's a lot more things now that are in place from a safety standpoint, which just as an administrative safety standpoint to like prevent egg on face moments. So I none of this is surprising to me, and it's probably for the best that it's done like this. But it does cut out a bit of the older spirit of Le Mans that I think a lot of people remember, or at least
of like the garage part of it.
Yeah, a bit of that.
Yeah. So it's gonna be super duper cutthroat, and it's all the more surprising to me then why teams like Settler and Racing Team Netherlands have left the WEC. I guess maybe they've done Le Mans once or twice or a few times now and they think it's time for a break, but like, and Dragon Speed as well, but like, damn, if I was a sports car driver and I saw that, you know, I've got a possibility of winning one of maybe 8 entries if I don't win a championship, I'd be trying my damnedest to get into the WEC.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, we only see 3 Pro-Am entries. I don't have any, you know, I'm not Graham Goodwin on this, so I don't know if there was other interest for more Pro-Am LMP2 entries that didn't get in because there was already the Pro LMP2 entries, you know, that we saw essentially on the entry list that were there already. So, you know, that's something to know I guess to take up note as well is just like how much have the FIA have already picked through some of the LMP2, you know, entries for WC that we didn't, you know, get to see because there's no like reserve entry list for full-time WC like there is Le Mans. Yeah. So, you know, we don't really get to see who was rejected. But like I said, I mean, everything is more cutthroat. So just getting in on these lists is more cutthroat. And again, it would not surprise me either that Dragon Speed or something like that, they're like, oh, we got a Pro-Am effort, and they're like, well, we don't really have any more slots considering who already put their application in or whatnot. So, and honestly, it's just, you know, this problem is what the FIAC wanted. They wanted to have too many people with cars and, you know, interested in entering them. So,
and they've done a good job.
It's a good problem to have, at least for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it absolutely shows the sort of strength of the ACO ladder, even if we are still in a transitional period for the overall.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We're going to round out our chat on the Season 10 preview and all the information that we have by talking a bit about the calendar. Now, we mentioned the calendar a bit when it was first released, but we're just going to go through in a little bit more detail now. It is a 6-round calendar. So we kick off with the prologue in March at Sebring, followed by the 1,000 miles of Sebring. Then it's into Europe with 6 hours of Spa-Francorchamps as the curtain raiser to the Le Mans 24. That's going to be in May. Le Mans, it's back on its traditional second weekend in June date. Then from Le Mans, we go to Monza in the peak of summer, over to Fuji in September, and then finishing it off in Bahrain. Now, it's only 6 rounds. It's been a long time since we've had a season be so short from the outset. Do you think, Cookie, that what are your thoughts? I should just ask you what your thoughts are instead of trying to lead you to your thoughts.
What are my thoughts?
What are your thoughts?
I mean, this is an entry list for the WEC, and it exists.
It's a calendar.
Yeah, it is a calendar. There's 6 dates on it. No, I mean, I think it is foolish. I don't want to say foolish. I think it's easy to want to have more rounds because, you know, more rounds equal just, I don't know, more prestige or more events or more interest, whatnot. So I think there's always that aspect of just grow. And I would disagree that F1's calendar right now is perfect with more rounds. I honestly would rather it be like 17, 18 rounds, something like that, 16 rounds a year. I think 20 and over is too much for F1. So, but there definitely was a time where I would not say that, and that I would want more rounds. But I think for where it's at right now, I think 6 is fine. I would like to see 7 or 8 probably if in a perfect world, but perfect world also doesn't have any finances that are involved with this. So,
or COVID,
logistically and all that stuff. And COVID. I don't know how much of that factored into that, but. Yeah, I mean, these are all solid rounds. I mean, the lack of a UK round again is annoying, I'm sure, to quite a few people on the island. But you know, that's a whole other, you know, can of worms, I think, in terms of the COVID, and then also just other travel concerns with that. So yeah, you know, it's annoying to not still see a British round on there because I do think that would, you know, that would make it more of a complete international championship, and also not to see Kayami on there as well.
Yeah.
I would love to see that, but that's more of like not necessarily a pipe dream, but
that's a
that's a little bit farther down the road.
Yeah, that's like the fantasy sort of scenario. Well, because Kyalami was listed for 20.
For a brief fleeting moment.
Just to round off that point, 6 rounds has been the shortest championship that the WC has had. And that was the case for last year as well. So last year had 6 rounds. I think the sweet spot for the WC is 8. I think 9 is pushing it a little bit. We had 9 back in 2016, and that was incredible. We had it for 2017 as well. But like, you look at that championship in 2017. We had Silverstone, Spa, Le Mans, Nürburgring, Mexico, Coda, Fuji, Shanghai, and Bahrain. So that's a pretty widespread calendar, and it was kind of, in my opinion, it was cool to have like races coming along like at around once a month or once every 3 to 4 weeks. I think that's sort of the sweet spot. It's very hard to sort of keep the momentum when you have like a 2-month break between Monza and Fuji, and then like another 2-month break between Fuji and Bahrain. I get part of that is to do with freight and to do with the costs associated with freight, but it's pretty hard to keep momentum together in that respect.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. And I'm sure that did factor into it as well. And yeah, I would say probably around 8 or 7 or 8 rounds would probably be in the sweet spot for me too. But yeah, I would definitely be interested to hear the I guess thought process behind where they're at, like where their heads at with this. Is 6 where they wanted, or were they trying to get more and it just fell through and whatnot? But I don't think that it'll stay 6 for next year. I think it'll be higher than that next year.
I hope so. I hope we have more stability in the world and we are able to make decisions without the risk of things being cancelled. And I hope that we get to see a bit more of financial security in the teams and in the championship, so that way we can do things like go to Kyalami or go to Mexico or go to Australia. Come to the Bend. I want to come to the Bend.
I mean, dollars and cents standpoint, though, it's about Toyota and Peugeot fighting for a championship. So the FIAWC, ACO, they're going to be pushing as hard as they possibly can to get as many rounds as possible, because that is going to be the biggest narrative that you will ever see in the last like 5 years. And then pushed by everybody. And then it's for that. Yeah. To
follow on from that as well, when you get the likes of Ferrari and Audi and Porsche, like I wouldn't be surprised to see another round of the Nürburgring for the German marketing capabilities. Looking at the calendar, what's the round that you're most excited for? We've got Sebring.
Spa? No, Sebring. No, it's Sebring. I don't know why I said Spa. I think I was trying to say Sebring immediately, but then Spa was easier to say. But no, it's Sebring. Yeah. Because they've only been there once, and the last 2 years they've canceled. So they haven't been there in 2 years, and it is a terrible track for some people that have no taste in motorsport. But
I feel like that's a shot against me personally.
I don't know why you would even say that. Not everything's about you, Mike.
Wow,
it's just not.
Wow,
not everything is a shot across your bow. Let's just put that.
Damn. Okay.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to Sebring.
Nice.
Yeah. And yeah, with the prologue being there too, that'll be I think that's a good spot for it. I wish more I wish that was more of a thing, that the prologue was done at Sebring, because it feels like, if anything, even for people that do not like the track, it's a great testing track.
Well, absolutely. If you're going to batter a car, Sebring is the place where you will batter a car.
Yeah, well, you don't want to deep fry cars. Though.
Oh my! Thank you for listening to Endurance Chat. I've been Michael Zalaro. Peace out. No. I'm excited for Monza. I mean, Le Mans, of course, will be fantastic, but I'm excited for Monza. It comes at a good time of year.
It's gonna be super hot.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be so good. It'll be a nice distraction from the freezing cold weather of in relative terms of the down under winter. I hopefully Ferrari has something to show us there. Like if they have a rolling chassis at that point, that would be molto bene.
Yeah. Lots of pasta eating that night.
Absolutely. That'll be happy days. And then, so I'm excited for that. Cookie, it's 2022. There's a lot going on. We also saw within the last 24 hours the Daytona 24 entry list get revealed. 61 cars on that. Hot damn. We'll delve into that in more detail a bit next week, but 61 cars, that's the biggest field IMSA's had in a while.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's that's reserved for like Sebring kind of thing, where they're just like bring anything, bring a kitchen sink if it moves fast enough. So yeah, this is kind of like, this is harkening back to days where you had an abundance of entries, and they're like, yeah, we'll have them run. So I mean, yeah, 61 is pretty high number, and it that's going back to Grand Am days.
Yeah.
So.
That's gonna be...
and the lineups are nuts. So me and Chris will talk about them next week, and hopefully we won't say stacked too many times. But I feel like that's just going to be coming out every single.
There's going to be a button
every single entry.
Every single time you say stacked, I'm going to put the Nürburgring Walla Lolla sound on it.
Well, it's a GTE-Pro, man.
Yeah,
I mean, they just keep sticking like pro drivers everywhere. I don't know what to do. Like, they're making this impossible to discuss, because it's just like, I don't know, just blindfold yourself, throw a dart at the wall on a, print out a big entry list sheet, and then that's who's gonna win. Like it's almost too hard to tell.
We might even have to do that episode in 2 parts to get through 61 cars, because there's no way that we're going to talk about a car every 2 minutes and keep it under 2 hours.
Well, yeah, that's true. Me and Chris keep it to about 2.5 with the Nürburgring 24 entry list, but a lot of that is just taken up by me butchering the pronunciation.
And you can expect more of that this year.
Way better.
You can expect.
Oh yeah,
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, season 7 for Endurance Chat. We've got some cool things cooking away in the background. Of course, if you want to listen to our offshoot podcast, my little project with Kiwi, our From the Grandstands, talking about the sport that we watch and the sort of things that we get excited about that aren't necessarily endurance sports cars. There's been some more V8s news today, so we'll talk about that in our next episode, and I hope you guys have been enjoying that. Cookie, it's been a privilege to do this intimate hour with you once again.
Hours, but yes.
Not quite hours. We've clocked in about 80 minutes, which is really, really good for us. Oh,
wow, that's really good. Yeah. These are usually like, we marathon him.
We certainly do. I've got a leash on you now. I know how to get you to move forward.
Oh, good. I was worried for a while, but no, this is I mean, it's a great entry list, and there's a lot of positives to talk about, and it's we're finally on the other side of the hill.
Yeah.
We're getting closer and closer to 2023, and we're starting to see the start of that now.
Yeah, and if we get to see a true battle between Peugeot and Toyota at the top of LMH, that's going to make the wait well worth it. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you to TheRacingLine.App for sponsoring us once again and keeping us going for 2022. And yeah, Season 7 of Endurance Chat. Thank you to everyone who's listened over the course of the last 6 years to keep this project something that we are invested in doing and something that has an audience. It's a very special thing to be able to interact with so many people through this platform, and I thank everyone for that every single time we do it. And on that note, thank you very much for listening. I've been Michael Zalavari. Peace out!
Yarrow Wano Gazoo. Yeah, I think honestly we'll just have some crisis moments in this episode and just not really talk about sports cars. I think that's probably that might be helpful for us. Well, because it's off season, so what else are we supposed to do?
Oh well, I mean,
can't focus on motorsports, so we gotta start addressing the crippling amounts of mental health care that are needed for most.
Oh my gosh! Wow, we're going very deep very early. Wow. Okay, I think we should.
Anyway, this is
Endurance Chat, ladies and gentlemen.
This is a start.
How much of that
All
is
right,
even usable? How much of that is even
none
usable?
of that.
I
None of
don't
that's
even
usable
know.
at all.
Far out.
See, we start again at the ad drop.
Oh my word!
It's been a while, so I feel like I have to really completely destroy this in order for me to feel comfortable. So
My word.
that's what I've done.
God damn it. Okay, I think I'm just gonna start again. Like that's
Yeah, that's
we've
fine
got
by
that
me.
out of the way now. We've gotten that out of the way. We can
Yeah,
start
I
talking.
really didn't get to talk about anything sports car related.
No,
so
no,
I'm
we
fresh.
didn't.